Well, Razorback fans, I know a lot of you have been asking me about the basketball transfer portal because I was talking it up last week. So what's going on? All right. Let's go ahead and discuss it. Let's talk about what we know, as well as a lot more on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Out of Bounds. You can catch every weekday afternoon from 1 to 4 on 103.7 The Buzz and 103.7thebuzz.com. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Wednesday, as I know we're going to dive into basketball, football, baseball, get to it all on today's Locked On Razorbacks. But, I wanted to go in with a basketball side of things today, or at least start off with that. Because I can't tell you how many tweets I got yesterday, and it wasn't like anything mean. It was just more like, hey, you said you were all excited about the portal, and you said you're excited about the weekend, and you said you were excited about this, that. Well, it's happened. I haven't heard anything. What's going on? And you're absolutely right. I was excited last week, and I had been hearing some things, and I know that the things that I had been hearing be coming from trusted sources, and I don't think that changed. I don't think that there was anything in that regard, but I do believe that there are so many things that go on with the transfer portal, and where you as a team or as a staff feel really confident about somebody that you're going to be bringing in, but then something happens to where that player gets maybe a better offer. That player suddenly gets interested somewhere else, or another school pops up. And it's not to say that you're out of the running or that you have no chance at it. It's just things change. Now, that could be a cliche answer or a cop-out answer, if you will. And so some of you that may accuse of that, that's fine. Like, I get it. But I'm just trying to, as they say, keep it real with you, because that's kind of the way it is sometimes when it comes to this. So when you had Musselman and the whole staff go so hot and heavy with 5 players coming out of the transfer portal, it becomes and starts to beg the question of, okay, so are they going to go after a big man? Because they got guards out the wazoo. We know that. They do have 2 guys that are key returnees with Trevin Brazile and Jalen Graham, who have announced they're returning. They also have, of course, Bay Fall coming in. And Mekhi Mitchell's still on the team. But as weird as it is, he hasn't said one way or the other of whether or not he's staying or whether or not he's going. The assumption is that he's staying, unless something changes, unless they add somebody else to the mix. But that's kind of what you're looking at right now. And the Jordan Walsh, Devo Davis situation, where they've gone pro, but they're still leaving it open for them to come back. I think that that's still, a kind of a weird deal. But that's where the roster is right now. And it really hasn't changed at all since the departure of Barry Dunning. Last week when there were some other transfers added, it's basically all quiet on the Western Front, as they say. So I thought that, Curtis Wilkerson, I'm not trying to say he stole my thunder, because he didn't, because we've great minds think alike. But he did write a great article with hawksports.com yesterday about Arkansas and their need for a big man. Like, do they need to go the route of bringing in a big man, getting another forward, getting another post player to come and help out? And I thought it was really interesting the way he put it, where you talk about the guards and you talk about what they've been able to do in the portal and who they have coming back. And there's no question that the Razorbacks have done an outstanding job in the portal. In fact, most national people you talk to feel like Arkansas is one of, if not the best team when it comes to their transfer portal additions. And this was a great point by Curtis, to where it really puts things into consideration. Now, again, this is from hawksports.com. It says there are a dozen centers, post players, ranked inside the top 100 of the transfer portal, according to 24/7 Sports. Of that group, 2 missed either most or all of last season with injury, and only 5 averaged double-figure scoring over the full year, with just 3 doing so at a major level. Only 2. Michigan's Hunter Dickinson and Oklahoma State's Musa Cisse. Is that how you say it? Cisse? Those are the 2 who are. Hunter Dickinson's number 1, and Oklahoma State's Musa is number 87. Both of those are the ones that remain committed. And then after that, if you're going to the power forward spot, that Oliver kid from Tennessee who is ranked number 47 in the transfer portal rankings, is still on the board. So you're talking about, when it comes to the high level guys, those are the 3 players that remain uncommitted that are either post players or power forward players in the top 100 of 24/7's rankings. Now, that can change, as we know. Like, there could always be a player that is currently on a college basketball roster that enters into the portal that was like, geez, wow, I didn't even see that coming. Didn't even know that was going to happen. Like, that can always change. But it's pretty slim pickings right now when it comes to the guys that they're actually interested in. Obviously, Hunter Dickinson was the one that got a lot of traction, which he took a visit to Kentucky. Apparently, I guess it went well, whatever that means. I know Kansas is still in the mix. And I still believe, even though it may not be as hot and heavy as it was because of the fact that he hasn't done an official visit, I still believe Arkansas is at least in the running, in the mix for Hunter Dickinson. It may be a smaller chance than what it is with Kentucky or Kansas, but I still believe it's there. It's at least there, and the interest is still there. So it's not exactly the biggest pot of high-level big men to go into and try to bring in. And so that starts to make you think, okay, well, you still got some really good players, and you got a 5-star player that's going to be really known for his defense. What about Mekhi Mitchell? Because let me ask you something. If Arkansas was unable to pull in a Hunter Dickinson or any of these other big-time players, it's not like Mekhi Mitchell is just a scrub. It's not like he's a nobody that has no experience, that had no good moments last year, and he just is somebody that's like, he's just a waste of a scholarship. That's not the case at all. Now, if you're wanting me to sit here and say who would you rather have, Hunter Dickinson or Mekhi Mitchell, I think we all know the answer to that. But if Arkansas is unable to nab one of these big men, then Mekhi Mitchell coming back is not the worst thing in the world, because honestly, he was the perennial starter for the most of the season at that center position. There were times he was extremely efficient, especially offensively, where he doesn't shoot the ball a whole lot, but he would go out there and get you 12 and 7 on some cases, and not turn the ball over a whole lot and just do some pretty nice things. So the point is that even if Arkansas does not bring in a big man, or if they don't nail or bring in one of the big time players that are still in the portal, it's not like it's the end of the world and suddenly this team they're going to fall short again. Like that's not the case at all. Because I think that also skilled big men are pretty tough to come by as it is, especially in the transfer portal. And I was even, again, Curtis Wilkerson doing a great job of this, but he brought up the fact that he's like, if you look at the other starting centers for the Final Four teams with the Golden kid from FAU, Olmener from Miami, and Mensah from San Diego State, they were solid, but they weren't anything like just, dominant. Now, of course, Sanago and Clegan, the kids on UConn, those were like exceptions to the rule because those guys were so dominant. But again, it's not about just like, if you can get a Dickinson, that's great. But if you can't, it's not the end of the world. Now, with the whole Walsh situation, if they need another player kind of like him, I would like to see that too. Like, if they can't get a great big man, but if they can get somebody that was like, a good wing player that's like 6'7", has great athleticism, and can provide defense and be a really good defensive player, assuming that Walsh is moving on and going pro, then I think that would be a great get too. I think that would be something that everybody would be on board with, even Eric Musselman. But the point is that they're not done. They're not stopping. They're not just, okay, well, we're washing our hands of the deal and we're sitting back and we'll see what happens. They're not doing that. They're constantly contacting in the portal, looking at people, testing people, and sometimes it's even so close to the chest that you may not even know about it. Because there have been a few players, like legitimately, that Arkansas has brought in via the transfer portal that were pretty sudden, pretty like out of left field, where it's like, whoa, what? I didn't even know that was a thing. I think back to like when Jimmy Witt came back. It was like the next day after he entered the portal. I was like, oh, okay. So again, it's something that's ongoing. It's something that's working. But basing it off of what I said last week, I still believe that the staff is very excited about what they have done. but also excited about some of the players that they have been talking to and that they have been dealing with. Just sometimes these things take time, and sometimes they have other things that pop up that may change a little bit, and they gotta keep at it and keep bringing it in. But I'll say all that to say this, and you can say that I'm just, again, just going along with the flow of the rose-colored glasses, whatever it is. But I believe that even if Arkansas added no more players, which they're going to have to essentially, but just we'll put it this way: if Arkansas added no more players and got Devo Walsh, one of those guys back, they're still a team that's good enough to make it back to the second weekend, maybe even the Final Four. Like they are. They absolutely have the talent to do so. Now, I know it's easier said than done, but that type of team will be good enough, talented enough, experienced enough, and really not have a major weakness, at least on paper, to make it back. Sometimes we just get a little greedy, and I'm guilty of it too. I get a little greedy when I start looking at Eric Musselman and what he's been able to do and how he's been able to bring in some of these big time players. But this talent, this roster has extreme talent, and I think that they will be in a great place to be contenders again next year and be a team that is not a team that you'll want to play come March, because you still got Eric Musselman, you still got experience, still got plenty of guys, but the roster's not done yet. They're still working on it, so I just got to wait and see, and hopefully we find out something here soon. That's what I'm hoping for. We will see. We'll talk a little bit about baseball from last night and some of the frustrations that came from that. But first, folks, I got to tell you about Built Bar. And, I've been bringing it up really since the podcast began. I've been one of the great advertisers here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And there's a reason why they are continuing on with us, because not only do we have a large platform to be able to talk about them, but they have the means and the resources to do advertising because they have a great product. It's something that people buy and invest in, and they just continue to grow the brand. They have so many different flavors to choose from when it comes to the best and greatest tasting protein bar there is. And they also are so easy and convenient where they're covered in chocolate. So that's how you know they taste great. But they're also 17 grams of protein, only 130 calories. The reason why people eat them so many times, you can, if you're someone that likes the snacks or likes the candies, throw those out and replace them with Built Bar. They'll taste just as good and be so much healthier for you. So check them out at Built.com. You can see all the different selections and flavors that they have to choose from. You can also go to your local Walmart or Sam's Club pharmacy section over there, and they have the different boxes that you can choose from there. So no matter how it is, whether it's online or via Walmart and Sam's, check out Built Bars at Built.com.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Oh, Razorback Baseball have lost 4 in a row, and they dropped another one last night against Missouri State on the road in Springfield, losing 8-4, and which was just really set up by one really bad inning. That's what it came down to. Arkansas was actually only trailing 2-1 heading into the third inning, but Missouri State scored 5 runs in that third inning, and it was all against Zach Morris, who was a guy who played on the team a lot last year, but been trying to get him back into the mix. And after that, as well as a 2-run home run there later in the game too, it was 7-2 before you could even blink. So you had Zach Morris. You also had Austin Ledbetter pitch. Cody Adcock's the one that got the start. But then at the end, you had Ben Bybee come in, which I thought he actually did a really good job, and it just wasn't enough. You didn't get enough hits. You didn't have enough going for you, and there was a lot of frustrations that started to boil over from some people. And I get it. You have a very high expectation, just like I do, just like we all do, about this Razorback baseball team. And if you just watch Dave Van Horn's press conference last night, you can see it's like he's not panicking, he's not freaking out, he's not thinking the world is coming to an end. It's kind of like, hey, sometimes it's just baseball. They didn't play a lot of players, like Peyton Stovall. They were resting him as he's been dealing with some nagging pain. So he didn't play. They're trying to get guys experienced, and as Dave Van Horn put it so succinctly, they're trying to just get guys as many reps as possible. So that way, when we need them, when it matters the most in postseason, and when there's quick turnarounds and a lot more games, and we want these guys to be as ready as possible. And a lot of times that's what happens in midweek series games or midweek games in general. And if you don't believe me, then just look at the rest of the SEC yesterday as LSU lost to Nichols. You had Georgia losing to Georgia State. You had a few other teams in the SEC that lost midweek games to teams that they should be better than. So sometimes that's just the way it goes. The thing about Georgia in that series, that was bad. Like, that's something that you don't want to have and don't want to do, especially when you were so close, like a play or two away from winning 2 of those games, and you just couldn't come up with it big. Like, that happens. It's unfortunate, but it happens, and you got to bounce back. But this week against Texas A&M, this is where they're going to have to start putting some things together. You're getting some guys back from injury, which is nice because it's like a hospital over there with how many players are injured on the Razorback baseball team. But it looks like Brady Tygert's coming back. He may even start to try to get him back into the mix, maybe on the second game or maybe the third game. Brady Tygart will get the start, so look to him getting back. It doesn't look like it doesn't look like Josenberger is going to be going for a while now, as he had he called it a grade 1 hamstring injury, which is the better of it, I think is how he said it. So he's going to be out, but it's not a full tear or anything. He won't play this week. There'll be some other guys who are trying to get back, but you got to be able to win your home series. And Arkansas has been an absolute dominating force at home. So you're hoping that if they can come back, bounce back, win 2 out of 3 at least against Texas A&M, get right back on track, continue to get guys healthy, and continue to get guys some reps, it'll all be good. But yeah, losing 4 straight games is not something that's ideal, and that's not something you want to do. I get it. I totally get it. But Parker Rowland's another one too. He did not start, but it looks like that he's going to be able to go this week. They didn't. He said they could have gone. David Horn said he could have gone last night, but they wanted to make sure, not push it and make sure that he's ready to go against Texas A&M this week. So I just feel like it's fine. It's totally fine. They're moving some things around. I saw Brady Slavens went out there to left field for the first time since his freshman year. Jace Borfin played center field. They're just looking at things, trying to get as many reps to guys, trying to get as many players in there. And there's a lot of guys that didn't even make the trip because of that fact. So point is that I'm not concerned. I'm not worried. I know that it's frustrating. You don't want to lose games, especially when you know what's on the line of trying to get to the point to where you can host a regional and a super regional. Like, nobody wants to deal with that. I get it. But, let's see how this plays out. Some people just push the panic button and just say everything's bad and it's so dumb. Like, relax. Like, there's a reason why. Listen, it's not college football where you lose a game, your chances of postseason are toast. There's a reason why everybody that wins a championship in baseball is normally not the most dominating or even a top 3 team in college baseball. It's just about playing your best at the right time. They're not right now, but as long as they are here soon, it'll be okay. So everybody just relax on that. We'll get to the final segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast and talk a little Razorback football and some transfer portal stuff coming up next, so stay with us.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Transfer portal still going on, as we talked about it for basketball, and then for football, it's also going on, which Arkansas is still trying to key in on a few players in the transfer portal. And one of those players is one that just recently entered in. I keep mispronouncing his name, so I'm probably going to do it here. But Montana Lamonius Craig, who is the 4th-year junior wide receiver for the Colorado Buffaloes. He was one of the ones that really showed out in the spring game for Colorado, and he entered into the portal as soon as the game ended. He has a lot of different offers, but Arkansas has been one of those that have really gotten to the mix. Which, by the way, speaking of Colorado and Deion Sanders, not to go on a tangent here, but I feel like it's necessary. I'm sorry, but I have never really been a huge fan of Deion Sanders. The whole his way of doing things and the loudness that he does it with, which I get. He backed it up as a player, can't deny that fact. But still, it's just sometimes I feel like he wants to be so different and be so over the top that it ends up just coming across in the wrong way. And he doesn't care what I have to say. But it just always rubbed me the wrong way. And then the way that he handled and has handled at least Colorado in that roster when he walks in the first day to the meeting and basically says, y'all are going to start hitting the portal because I'm bringing Louis with me. It's like, dude, you don't even know these kids. Like, these are kids that have scholarships, that have families, that like, there's a lot. And you were just like not talking one-on-one with them, but you did it in front of them all on camera and put out the video about it. It's like, I understand you want to get the best players because, I mean, that's what we talk about with Razorback basketball. It's like, hey, you want to get the best players, and if you have to tell somebody, hey, we're going a different direction, you need to go to the portal, that's part of the business, and that's something. But just walking in first time in the team meeting and just saying, yeah, I'm bringing in so much better players than you, and then putting a video out on it. Like, I would feel the same way if, with like Barry Dunning leaving, if Muss was telling him to leave, that Muss puts out a video and it's like him and Barry Dunning, and he's just like, listen, you're going to have to hit the portal because I'm bringing in somebody better than you. Like that, it's not the way you do things. It's not the way you should handle things. And now that there's so many players hitting in the transfer portal from Colorado, like everyone, there's some people that are defending Deion saying, oh yeah, he's got to bring, okay, we'll see. But he can do whatever he wants and how he wants it, but I'm not rooting for him. I'm kind of hoping he fails, to be honest, but that's just me. But either way, Lamonius Craig, who's a great wide receiver, and he has already offers from Arkansas, Auburn, Washington State, Penn State, Arizona, Cincinnati, California, BYU, West Virginia, UCF, Mississippi State, Oregon State, among others. He's into the mix, and Arkansas has reached out to him, and I was like, man, that would be a huge get for Arkansas, which I love the wide receivers that they've added. But if you can add a big-time player like that, who's already proven that he can be at the Power 5 level and be an incredible athlete and be able to add something into the mix, an experienced guy who is a fourth-year junior wide receiver, I think that would be an absolutely outstanding addition to Arkansas and adding to that wide receiver depth. Now, how much of a chance do they have? I don't know. Look and see how many offers he had and how many schools were mentioned there. Like, I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be like a guy that is really interested in Arkansas or not. But it certainly seems like Arkansas is very interested in him. And they're trying to add maybe some more wide receivers to the depth too. And I think it'd be a great move if they were able to keep him and get him to play in Fayetteville. It'd be awesome. But still, shows up Sam Pittman and the staff still working. They still got scholarship availability. Still a lot of players in that portal. And they're still trying to build on some depth. They've done a great job in the portal so far. And if they added Montana Lamonius Craig, then man, let's really get going. Let's really see how it all plays out. But we'll see if that actually ends up happening. Lots of things that need to happen until then. But either way, appreciate everybody listening in to the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at BuzzJohnNabors for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.